Good morning, boys and girls. It is day 6. Slept in a little bit again. But it was super cold at sunup. It feels like a fair bit better. But I just don't want to get out of bed. So what are we going to do today? You know, I enjoyed those frog legs. Maybe I'll go back to the swamp and see if I can't get some more of those. Maybe more than just one pair this time. Maybe with the colder weather they might be a little sluggish. And yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Alright, let's get to her.
Alright. Who wants to see what I got for dinner? If you don't, skip forward, because I got to document everything I'm eating here. Okay, where do we go? There we are. I got some burdock root. I got some oxeye daisy greens. I haven't had a lot of greens, so I grabbed some. I also have some very small, like, remnants of fiddleheads. Some of the ones that were in sort of a cold shaded area and haven't opened up yet. So, more for the taste. Yep. I grabbed some yarrow. It's back there a fair bit. And I was having like a bit of an acidy stomach thing last night. So I figured maybe some yarrow might help. What do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's a little more yarrow there. 4 cattail roots. They're kind of a staple around here, it seems. Oh, there's some more fiddleheads. Come on. One more fiddlehead. Alright. And there's a little more yarrow. And I saw another little, yep, there's a fiddlehead down there. Alright, for the main course. 1 pair of frog legs. 2 pairs of frog legs. 3 pairs of frog legs. 4 pairs of frog legs. 5 pairs of frog legs. 6 pairs of frog legs. Oh. Add to that a small amount of caribou moss, just to say that I ate it while I was here. And that is going to be a good meal. And I saw some yellow dock while I was digging up that burdock root. I meant to grab some and I forgot. I stood up with the burdock root. I started to slide a little bit and almost landed in the swamp. Totally forgot the yellow dock, which has a really nice lemony flavor. And it would go perfect with the frog legs. I'm gonna go back and get some. It's really like a 5-minute walk. It's really not that far. I mean, it's through a mosquito-infested forest, and you got to climb a fair hill to get up there. But that's Muskoka, and I really wanted some of that yellow dock with those frog legs. So yeah, I'm going to get it now. I'll be back in a minute. So, 1, 2, 3. Yellow dock. Or curly dock. When they're young, they don't have any bitter flavor at all. It's just a nice lemony flavor. As they get older, they get more bitter. But these are young. So, perfect. Oh, for crying out. Oh. Okay, hold on, guys. I don't like using this stuff, but I gotta put on some Muskoka cologne. Ugh. Mosquitoes. There. All right. Burdock root. You got to clean that fairly well. And it can be a real pain to get it completely clean. Luckily, I pack a green scrubby in my camp pack, which is perfect for getting all the crud and mud and everything off of the burdock root. I don't know what it is. The skin of the burdock root really, really holds onto the dirt. You can't just rinse it off. You gotta scrub it off. And by the time it's clean, it looks pretty much like a long potato. Which is convenient because pretty much tastes like potato too. What did I do with the other one? Oh. Gee. I gotta tell you, I don't know what's going on back at that swamp. There's either one moose with one really bad, serious case of IBS, or there's a lot of moose back there. And I've been hearing at least a female. A fair bit, actually. But there's a lot of moose dung back there. And I'm thankful that I didn't run into any while I was back there, but I did smell one. And I almost turned around. And came back, but I had hardly any food, and I didn't see it, so I assumed that it was moving the other way. It was probably avoiding me. So I continued on, and I don't know, that was that. But there was one fairly close. Large herbivores tend to have kind of a gassy, poopy smell. And yeah, I could smell one fairly close when I was back there for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. So okay, so the burdock root is clean and that's ready to go. Scrubby goes back in there. And now as for the caribou moss, you have to boil that in 3 or 4 changes of water to make it edible. So I guess I'm gonna relight the fire and sort of get that started, because that's gonna take a while. So yeah, it's got some acid-like compound or some sort of a compound in it that it's it really, really, really upsets your stomach and your GI tract and everything. It causes bad cramps or whatever if you don't prepare it right. You got to boil that out. So, which is probably why it's mostly tasteless, actually, by the time you get to eat it. So, yeah, we might as well get started on that now. when preparing caribou moss, it's handy to have one of these camp grills around your camp. I personally would like a smaller one, but so this has been boiling about 10 minutes. Time to strain it out. Now is a good time also to pick out pine needles, debris, possibly bugs that you missed. And I can see a couple of pine needles that I did miss. Alright, that's ready for another boil. Give the pot a quick rinse. Doesn't matter where you stand. Campfire smoke. Gotta love it. Oh. As for the rest of the meal, that's ready to go. Frog legs are skinned and soaking in cold, salted water, and we'll put those on soon. And here we have a wild caught and harvested late lunch, early dinner wolf in the wilds. We have our frog legs. We have our yellow dock. We have our little ferns, fiddleheads. We have our caribou moss, our cattail root, oxeye daisy, and last but not least, our burdock root. Very nice potato substitute. Oh, and our yarrow. Somehow missed that. I know everything there is to know about burdock root. You can bake it, boil it, fry it. Yeah, I get that's it. It's actually a little undercooked. Daisy. Very flavorful. Cattail root. Fiddlehead. Yeah, it's still good. Some caribou moss. No flavor. But when I made the frog legs, I put them in the pan with some water, a little bit of lemon pepper, and the curly dock, yellow dock, and just let them cook like that. As I was making up the plate, I tried a little bit of the broth, and it tasted somewhat similar to chicken noodle soup broth. So later on, before bedtime, I'm going to take that broth, I'm going to put some of this caribou root in there, caribou moss in there, and I'm going to eat it that way, and that will generally improve the flavor, I'm sure. Okay, now for frog. Cold already, holy jumpins'. Still pretty good though. Oh. Good stuff. Yellow dock. Very good. But the sheep sorrel goes better with the frog than the yellow dock does. Even though they both have a somewhat lemony flavor, the sheep sorrel is just a little bit stronger when cooked. Well, in general, actually. Yarrow. Much like a potato, these burdock root need to be cooked longer than basically everything else. I should have put them on when I started the process of getting the caribou moss ready to eat. Still not bad though. I gotta tell you, this is definitely a meal fit for a bushman. Now, the yarrow tastes green with sort of a slight bitterness, almost medicine kind of, but like barely noticeable. Barely noticeable at all. But the oxeye daisy, it's it's hard to describe. It doesn't really taste green, really at all. It tastes flowery. Like, kind of sweet, but sweet isn't really the right word. It's like the way a flower is fragrant. That's what that tastes like. Very hard to describe. Delicious. Very, very good. Maybe if I mix some in with the caribou moss as I'm eating it, it'll probably make the daisy not so good, but it'll make the caribou moss better. Like, it's almost like watercress without the crunch, but less flavor than watercress. It's very, very, very slight astringency type of a taste. Like that. That is a hard one to describe. It really is. Well, I guess I'll turn the camera off, finish my meal. Get back to you guys later when I got something a little more exciting to film. So that meal was awesome. I'm so full. I am so full. With the exception of the emergency pack with 3 MREs, I brought no food out here at all. I have documented basically everything that I've eaten. I have never, not once, gone to bed hungry. Not one time in my 5 nights here. And night number 6, in a few hours, will not be any different. I'm so full. I've got a little of that caribou moss left over, and I have the broth from the frog's legs. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to eat that. Like, that might be breakfast. I don't know. It's up in the air right now. I'm just super satisfied. I don't know if I've lost weight or not, but I've had a fair bit of fun. It definitely has been an experience. And to the man who does this, like, at least once a year, the Wooded Beardsman, I'll tell you, man, you're one tough cookie. Like, I know I'm doing it alone, and he usually brings a buddy of his along, which would be super helpful. you know, for the division of labor type thing. But still, the whole idea of living more or less primitively is a lot of work day by day, let me tell you. Oh. So as I mentioned before, this is a campsite that is used regularly by my brother. We generally come out here on the May 24th weekend every year, or he does every year. I started joining him fairly recently. Thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic, we didn't do that this year, and that was a real drag because that's mostly when I get to spend the most time with my brother. The swamp that I went, I got all the frogs and all the wild edibles around the area, whatever. I've kind of, as I explored it over the last few days, I did kind of learn something. On the, more or less, the south side of the swamp, it's all frogs and turtles. There is at least one muskrat hanging around. The first time I saw it, I almost, just for a split second, I almost shot it. Thinking, you know, like, hey, I wonder what muskrat tastes like. I'd never had it. But then I remembered, I believe that's what is classified as a fur-bearing animal, and you need a license for that. So I could have gotten in a lot of trouble for doing that. If I remember correctly, you can't shoot muskrat without a license. And I'm sure there's a season and whatnot. Also, on the north side of the swamp, basically, there's less frogs, but there's a lot of minnows. And the size of some of them, they would be excellent for the pike fishing out here. So I think the next time I come here, because it's my brother's campsite and I do come out with her, I'll be back. And I think the next time I come here, I'll bring a minnow trap and I'll toss it out in that swamp and see what I can get, because live bait is always better than lures for, catching fish. So I'm definitely going to give that a try. All in all, now, I've been racking my brain the last little while. I can't remember how the Wooded Beardsman does this. I don't know if he goes home on day 7 or if he packs up and leaves, like early, the morning of day 8 kind of thing. I really can't remember. I unfortunately have to go home on day 7. I have to get up, have my breakfast, have my coffee, clean up the area, kind of make sure that everything's in my camp pack or, in my boat when I leave. I gotta, more or less leave it the way I found it. And then I gotta get out of here because, I do have to be a dad too, and as much as I would like to stay, I really, really would like to stay. I really did have a blast out here. I also really, really, really like being a dad, so it's if it was a it doesn't matter, you can stay one more day, I probably would, but I can't. So my kids are gonna love these videos though. I'm pretty sure they're gonna see me eating all this crazy stuff and get all grossed out probably. So I enjoyed my meal. I'm having my after dinner coffee, and I don't know, who knows what I'll get up to. who knows what's going to happen. Probably not much. I think I'm going to relax. It was a lot of activity today. But if something interesting comes up, I'll definitely get back to you guys before bedtime. There's a bird nest, like, right in my camp. Pretty much right in camp. I'm going to send my tripod and camera up there and see if I can't get a shot, because I think there might be babies in there. So it's a robin's nest. So let's give it a try. Okay, so yeah, I hope I got whatever's in there. If that didn't work, then that's my attempt. I'm not going to climb the tree, and I'm not going to bother the birds any more than I have. Here's hoping. Well, sitting around, not really much to do. Figured I'd practice a little bit of bushcraft trapping. Primitive traps is not my strong point. I don't know a lot of primitive traps. Mostly because in my area, pretty much the whole province, maybe even the whole country, using primitive traps is illegal. And trapping without a license carry a pretty hefty fine as well. So this is for educational purposes only, and just me practicing, and I was at a practice, so something I should keep up on. Doing the things that I do, I want to be prepared. Now, if you're in a survival situation, you could do whatever it is you have to do to survive. You can trap with primitive traps if you have to. They can't throw you in jail or fine you for saving your own life. So, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the Figure 4 Deadfall. It's 3 pieces of wood and a nice flat rock, or maybe a log, or, kind of whatever, but rocks really are the best, flat ones especially. So, the first piece is your stand. That's basically your load-bearing stick. The next piece is the diagonal part of the 4. That's sort of part of your trigger system. And then your trigger stick, aka bait stick. Bait goes on the end. Now, the first one has, let's see if I can, almost like a flathead screwdriver, standard screwdriver. The next piece, and a notch. The next piece has sort of a notch to help hold on to that flathead screwdriver part, and another notch. And those notches together will hold the bait stick. Now the bait stick has a notch and a notch, and then it's kind of sharpened at the end to hold whatever bait you're using. All right. Putting it together is relatively simple. Like I say, the slot there holds onto the notch there. Trigger stick goes in. And it Holds the weight. Wow, mosquitoes, jeez. Okay, so. Oop. Sorry, trying to do this with these mosquitoes driving me nuts is a little difficult. Jeez. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this with all these bugs. Now, you lift your rock, you let everything fall apart. Holy jumpins', man. Oh. Okay. Now the idea is a small animal will come along at the bait at the end of the stick, and as he's gnawing on it, that will happen. Is it a 100% trap? No. Are most traps 100% traps? No. Will it get you some food? Possibly. You put out... Now, you could build this relatively quickly if you're well practiced and know what you're doing. In a day, you could, depending on, the availability of rocks, you could, say, knock out 10 of these, set them up around the area that you're staying in, and chances are one of these things is going to net you something to eat. Oh, for crying out loud. This is really hard to do with all these mosquitoes. I don't know if you can see them on camera, but they're everywhere, and they're driving me bananas. What in the world am I doing here? Putting it in backwards. Trying to hurry this along to get out of the bugs, and I'm just taking more time. Oop. There is a bit of a knack, obviously. One of those knacks is to have enough bug spray on. These little bloodsuckers aren't chewing on you constantly.